This Friday, Thomas Tuchel is announcing his first England squad. He is, of course, England manager. It's an exciting time. Luke Moore, I think you'll agree. We are now going to agree. Yeah, marvellous. We're all pumped for this Friday's England squad. Who, though, could be some exciting young outsiders that make the cut for Thomas Tuchel? We're going to pick 5 right now. And I'd like to start with a man who has been picked for an England squad, but he's not a regular. A lot of competition in the place that he'll be vying for. Morgan Gibbs-White.
Yeah, he's definitely still ranked as an outsider because he's only been in one
I think it was only one squad,
yeah, in August under Lee Carsley. Look, Forrest having a brilliant season, and he's been a really important part of that, absolutely pivotal in the attacking positions. Because the way Forrest tend to play is, they soak it up and they strike. It's a soak and a strike. And then you've got to be really efficient with the chances you do create or the way you make your chances. And Gibbs-White's been a huge part of that. He's absolutely pivotal in that role just behind Chris Wood. Fantastic, positive attacking player. Can go both ways, can pass the ball brilliantly, as evidenced by the goal that Callum Hudson-Odoi scored against Man City at the weekend.
And he could alleviate pressure as well. Because I think if,
he carried the ball really well.
Absolutely. Thomas Tuchel is picking the squads, it's to qualify for the World Cup. And surely, England are favourites to qualify from that group. He'll be thinking, right, tournament football, all the rest of it. You need a different option in there, a player that could, as I say, alleviate pressure. And if you're up and you're sort of thinking, right, soak in, hit him on the break. And I think Morgan Gibbs-White has those tools.
Totally.
And I think is an exciting option in a place where there's fierce competition for England, we should say.
There is fierce competition, but the way that England squads tend to work, no matter who the manager is after a period of time, if the manager stays in the role for any considerable length of time, there does start to be favourites and kind of people who establish a position and still get in squads and in teams when maybe their form doesn't necessarily deserve it. So I think, you touched on this in the opening to the video, the fact there's a new manager coming in now is a perfect excuse to have a new broom come in and say, look, Gibbs-White is a brilliant attacking player. He's playing for Forest, who have an historically good season. They should really now, after the weekend's results, get into the Champions League. He's been a massive part of that. You cannot say, for example, that he doesn't deserve to be in a squad ahead of Cole Palmer, who's not been in great form recently, for example. I know Palmer's a really important player for England, but you know the point I'm making. Yeah. It shouldn't just be settled because they've always been there. And Gibbs-White has been able to bang on the door of it even when all these other players are playing well. He's had an interesting journey. I loved how much Steve Cooper wanted him, how much money they paid for him just to show how important he was going to be. And he's gone on to really satisfy that price tag. Yeah. A great future ahead of him.
Now, another man who'll be vying for a similar role for England, if indeed he gets a call-up, is Morgan Rogers. He's had a great season for Villa, playing
both
Champions
called Morgan.
League. Indeed, we know more Morgans.
Always nice to have a Morgan in there.
Well, it would appear. Yeah. Could have 2 of them. But a brilliant season for Aston Villa. So much experience he's had in this time of, as I say, Champions League and so on and so forth. He has been called up to an England squad before. I think he came on against Greece, if my memory serves me correctly, in the away tie. But again, an outsider because not a regular, still very green to international football. Yeah. But a contender in that position as well.
Yeah. So slightly different. Same name, slightly different proposition, and I'll tell you why. Can play in the wide attacking areas as well. Gibbs-White very much plays in the old jam role, doesn't he? And that's that. But Rogers will play as a wide forward when Emery wants him to. Slightly changed, I suppose, since Rashford's come in. But anyway, he can do that. And you say he's having a fantastic season. I would say that is true because he's still in the part of his career where he's developing.
All things considered, he's having
definitely
a good season.
Very, very exciting attacking player. Again, can be inconsistent, can find himself drifting through games. But here's the thing, and you're not going to like me saying this, but I think it's important to state, international football, particularly when it comes to World Cup qualifying groups, isn't the same intensity or level as the Premier League or the Champions League. He's not going to... Look at you.
I accept that.
Right, fine. Your face doesn't look like
I thought you were going to slag off the Nations League for an odd minute there.
Never. Not on your watch.
Carry on.
So I don't think he's going to find it difficult to make that adjustment. And if Tuchel decides he's a player he wants to look at, he's clearly not going to find the standard in the World Cup qualifying group too difficult. Again, say it's a different player, different proposition, but same tradition, as in try him out. It's a new broom. Same principle. Give it a go.
Yeah.
Because when he is good, he's really good. Really good. Like I've been super impressed with him when he's on it. So yeah, another interesting candidate.
By the way, do subscribe to the channel and like the video, and you get your comments in below. I'm sure you've got lots of thoughts on this. Now let's switch from the focus of attacking midfielders, if you like, or even forwards, you could say, with Rodgers, to defence. Left back was heavily scrutinised at the European Championships for England for obvious reasons. You know,
Can I give you an exciting outsider for a left back?
Yes, you can.
Luke Shaw.
Come the tournament, that man will be fit. Don't you worry about that.
Get him in there, the quarterfinal.
Get him in there. There is a position up for grabs there. Now, Lewis Hall has played for England, but injured. So
the old Luke Shaw curse.
Indeed. Miles Lewis-Skelly is the name I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, tell us what you think about him.
Well, he doesn't seem to be fazed by much.
No, he doesn't.
Which is usually to his benefit. But I think Tuchel will be looking at Lewis-Skelly, and I think he'll get a call up. And I think he should get a call up, because when I say nothing phases him, I mean, we've enjoyed a bit of his shithousery and so on.
Yeah, but that's one of the benefits of being a young player.
It is. But you can see that he's slotted into the side who are, let's be factual, the second best team in England right now, and he's not looked out of place. And he's popped up with some good moments. He himself is getting Champions League experience as well. And it's a side of the pitch and a position of the pitch where England need somebody. You know, Rico Lewis has been given a go there, but I think he may well be used better elsewhere. Will he even get a call up? That's a different player, a different conversation. As I say, Shaw can never stay fit for very long at all. Lewis Hall would be another name. There is a proper left back there with now big game time experience. He's still very young, of course, and he's still finding his way in the game. But I think Tuchel should be looking at him. Yeah, Lewis-Skelly, he's got all the attributes to be a top player.
Yeah, Miles Lewis-Skelly is really interesting because he's exactly in microcosm the exact positive and negative you get from a really young player.
Yeah.
So positives, of course, not phased, not frightened or anything, no real experience to kind of knock the edges off him. Quick, he can run all day, a great engine on him. Wants to do the hard stuff as well, as he likes to take a chance, likes to contribute going forward as well as defending. The negatives are that positionally, it always takes a while, in my view, particularly with modern fullbacks, to really nail that positioning, when to stay, when to go, that kind of thing. Picking up the flow of a game, where you need to be best, where you can best be used. I think that happens a lot with young fullbacks. Discipline's a problem. Can lose his head. You know, I know you call it shithousery, but I think he can lose his head, which is something that will kind of improve over time. But yeah, again, a really interesting natural young left back. And the reason I'm saying that is because we're going to come on to another player in a minute, I think. I think it would be crazy for Tuchel not to look at him. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I think as well that we had Gareth Southgate was in charge of England so long that I'm sort of reverting to that kind of thinking. But when a player who, I mean, you know, Jordan Pickford would be an example of this, but when a player who can be maybe slightly erratic or a little bit poorly disciplined or lacking focus came into the England setup, what Southgate did is, whatever happened, they would be focused when they played for England.
Yeah.
And he was really good at that. And it's something that Tuchel will have to make sure that is a hallmark of his sides. And I think he can do it, and I think he will do it. And that's where Miles Lewis-Skelly can benefit as a player, but also, making sure.
But it's interesting how, I mean, we don't want to get off topic too much, but it very much depends on how Tuchel approaches it.
Yeah.
Southgate kind of knew he was going to be in it for the long haul, kept signing contracts, kept doing quite well in tournaments. And so it became a bit of a family. And that came with, towards the end, in my view, that came with a bit of a downside as well, because it was like, players are always getting the nod. Coming back to what we just talked about earlier, if Tuchel's going to be a lot more transactional, and like, this is, I'm ruthless.
Do what you want.
I don't have, I know, but I just mean I don't have an affinity with England doing well until this point, because I'm not English, and I'm about winning trophies. Then you might find them being a lot more ruthless. He might look at these players, feel his way into the job, and then start to think, right, the players are informed, the players I know I can rely on, the players I'm going to play. It's a clean slate for everyone. And Lewis-Skelly, again, with international football as well, it's a lot about timing. He's come in to a great piece of form after being given an opportunity, playing at the very highest level, and now there's an England squad about to be announced. He is an outsider. He has to be because of his age and because of his lack of experience. But it would be, I think, quite remarkable if he's not picked.
Yeah, especially, again, as I say, with the injuries in that position.
Yeah, as a natural left back, yeah.
Let's stay with fullbacks. Jed Spence, another name.
Yeah. I like Jed Spence. I think he's been brilliant since he's come into the team at Spurs in, again, very difficult circumstances. The players that have been highlighted as coming out of this Spurs period with credit have been Lucas Bergvall, Archie Gray, and Jed Spence. And I think Jed Spence has been really, really good since he's come in. You know, broke through at Forest, did really well. Then kind of got a weird move to Spurs. And what I mean by that is that it seemed like it was more of an infrastructural buy, a kind of recruitment buy rather than the manager himself wanting him. Obviously, he was then farmed out on loan, and he kind of was a bit like a forgotten man.
Yeah.
And I know this is a cliche, but it very much is the case in this specific example. When he started coming into the team, it was almost Spurs fans almost like this is like a new player. You know, they'd kind of just written him off.
But he got them going though.
He's been brilliant.
Yeah,
he's been brilliant, and the way we talk about Miles Lewis-Skelly being a left-footed natural left back in a period when there's been injuries in that position. And go back a bit further, England have sometimes found it hard to get left-sided players in a team of enough quality. What Jed Spence offers is he's naturally right-footed. He would probably call himself a right back, but he's also been excellent at left back, so he can give you options. So in a way that Morgan Rogers is a bit more versatile and flexible than Morgan Gibbs-White, I would say Jed Spence is more flexible, to my knowledge, than Miles Lewis-Skelly. Now, for all I know, Miles Lewis-Skelly can play right back as well. I just haven't seen it. So he would be a player that perhaps, even if you just look at him in training, Spence, and try him out in different ways, it might be interesting. Because I think he's definitely got the ability. He's definitely got the quality. He's got the engine. He's probably been Spurs' best player in the last couple of months, I would say.
There you go. So, yeah, a player that Tuchel will certainly be looking at.
Yeah.
Let's see if he gets picked on Friday. The last name I want to throw out there is a centre forward.
Yeah.
Liam Delap.
And I'll let you start on this because you love him. You love the man.
I like the man. Maybe it could grow into love.
Yeah.
And that's what one always hopes when
the first date was positive.
Exactly. When you start with a liking, you're thinking this could turn into loving.
Yeah. It's a weird first date because he doesn't really know you exist. But you've got all you could do it.
Like I was there at Craven College when he banged in that penalty. Could we call it a first date? I don't know.
It's just Saturday to him.
I don't know. Exactly. I think there's a chance for Delap. And again, you have to think about injuries as well to other players and so on. So Dominic Solanke's injured as well. Ivan Toney took the Saudi Arabian shilling.
Yeah.
So those two, Tony's out of it now.
He's gone.
Let's be honest.
Long gone.
And Solanke for now is out of the running for the squad. Although I think Solanke's a brilliant player. Blah blah blah. We're not talking about him. We're talking about Delap. You've got obviously Kane up there. Is going to be the striker. Ollie Watkins vying for a place. There is room for a third striker, I think. And Liam Delap has showed glimpses of what he can do in the Premier League this season. It's been tough for him, playing up front for a side who a lot of people had doomed for relegation before a ball was even kicked this season. So it's been tough, but his attributes are there. He can run with the ball. He can head the ball. He can shoot. He can finish.
Strong.
He's strong. The way he occupies defenders. The defenders don't get a minute with him up there. And people might say, well, but he's only scored a certain amount of goals and so on. But again, playing for this Ipswich Town side who have done, all things considered, have done okay, but they're probably going to get relegated. It's very difficult for him. I think next season he'll probably get a move to a bigger side, and we'll start to see what Delap can do. But all types of goals, all different kind of attributes and qualities that he brings. And I think that, yes, Kane is still the number one, don't get me wrong. And Watkins is probably the number two. But I think Delap, this is going to be the early signs of him coming into the England setup.
Yeah.
And in due course, when Kane finally retires in a few years, whenever that is, and Delap is up and running as a proper Premier League striker, that's when he'll start to seize his chance. And I think he will go on and do that, would be my prediction.
Yeah, the reality is that there needs to be a passing of the baton for someone to lead the line for England. And what Kane represents is a lot more than just a striker. Obviously, incredible amount of goals, captain, been a good ambassador as well. But in that position itself, there needs to be a passing the baton. And over the next couple of years, people need to make themselves viable candidates. And I think, whilst Delap's got a lot of improvement to make, he's got a lot.
I think it's a prediction, of course, but I think he's going to go on and do it.
He can be the natural heir to Harry Kane because, as you've already listed, he does everything really. And he's doing everything in a side which kind of makes it difficult to do.
Because Watkins himself is 29, is he? So again, in a few years' time,
he's also not the same type of player.
He's not the same type of player, and that's what I mean. The time is on Delap's side, whereas Watkins is waiting for sort of Kane to kind of maybe in time. I don't think Kane's still a lot in the tank. Don't get me wrong.
I don't know if Kane has got a lot left in the tank. I think he's got some left in the tank.
As long as he's got it for the World Cup,
I think he can take. I think it's reasonable to say that he could go up to and include in the World Cup. I think that's fair. But I think it's been diminishing returns for a little while. And I think he looks a yard slower. And what happens in football is, it's ruthless, right? It's a complete meritocracy at the top level. And if someone comes along of that profile that Delap's got and can improve at the rate he's improving, he's probably a season away from being people clamouring for him to be first choice because of everything he brings. And the point you made about him occupying defenders is really important in international football. Yeah, I think Watkins is fantastic, and he scored important goals for England, and is a great player to watch. But he is I'm going to make a brilliant run. I'm off the shoulder, and I'm a good finisher, and I'm reliable, and I'm regularly fit. But it's not the same. There's no way even now you could argue that Watkins occupies defenders like Delap does. And Delap he's a rhino as well. He's a complete tank, right? So it's a really exciting time. We should be welcoming of the idea of another young striker coming along and pushing Kane as hard as he can, because it's a win-win for us. I'm not writing off Kane. On the other hand, it could make Kane find another gear, because he goes, well, this kid coming behind me, I always knew this day was coming, because that's what football's like. You can make him find another gear even. And then what have you got? Well, you've got a position where if Delap can't force his way into a starting berth for England, he can come on and make a difference, because the last thing defenders want to see is half an hour left, here he comes. They don't want that. So I think it would be really, really sensible at this point for Tuchel to look at him.
There you go, everybody. There's 5 names that we think are outsiders, young, exciting outsiders of Thomas Tuchel's England squad. Get your comments in below. Tell us who you think should be in Thomas Tuchel's squad, who is an exciting young outsider.